Hi guys, this is Shyam, and in this session, we will be creating an end-to-end Power BI project using the Power BI desktop. We have received some requests regarding how you can create a good Power BI project. So in today's session, we will look at how you can achieve just that, and we will build a project from scratch. But before we begin, if you are new to this channel, do consider subscribing as we upload new videos on leading technologies every day. Also, hit the like button, and if you are looking to level up your data analytics skills, check out the links in the description below. So, let's look at our agenda for today. Firstly, we will talk a little about what Power BI is. Then, we will see the steps needed to install Power BI Desktop. And lastly, we will move on to creating our own Power BI project which will be based on the HR dataset. So, let's start by talking about Power BI first. So, what is Power BI? It is a data visualization tool developed by Microsoft which is interactive. It focuses mainly on business intelligence, which basically is a way for organizations to make data-driven decisions better by combining data visualizations and data mining and other tools. Power BI also has data warehouse capabilities including data preparation, data discovery, and interactive dashboards. So, let's look at how you can create Power BI desktop on your machine first. First, you will need to go to the link which is powerbi.microsoft.com/en-us/download. Here, navigate to the Power BI desktop and you should be able to install it on your system. Next step then is to create a free account for yourself, for which you will need your official email address. Then you will need to complete this sign up process, and after that is finished, you will be able to use your login ID and password to access Power BI desktop and create and publish reports. Now, let's move on to the hands-on section where we will create our own Power BI project. We will be using HR datasets for this purpose. So, let's look at some of the steps that we will do. First, we will load the dataset. Then we will transform the data if required and also define relationships among datasets in case the auto-detect functionality fails in the Power BI. Next, we will create our visualizations and add colors or titles and make other changes to make the dashboard look elegant. And finally, we will publish our report so that other stakeholders in the organization can view it. So let's look at some Power BI reports first to see what a good report looks like. Here I have my market data analytics which shows some insights about whatever information that we had. Here it just shows the number of customers and income by states data. It also shows income by vehicle class and income by marital class in addition to some other analytics. We also have the IT spend analytics data. Here you can see some interesting visuals which shows some interesting graphs about the actual plan by the IT area combined with showing the region in Europe where the variance plan percentage was calculated on a country or region basis. So essentially, the key part about creating a good Power BI report is that they should look appealing to the eyes, which you can see here. So we will do just that from the scratch. Here I have an empty project, which I have named Demo Prop. First, for any visualization, we need data. For this project, I have the HR analytics data from the company. I have extracted this data from my database and I'll be using this data in my reports. So I'll load this data as I create my visualization. So first, let's say that I want to answer some questions like I want to show how many bad employees were hired in the entire duration by gender. For this, I'll need only two data points. First, the gender, and second, the number of bad hires that we have. For this, I'll load two datasets. First is the gender dataset and second is the employee dataset. So let's load it. And now I'll go ahead and load the employees data. Do note that most of the data has already been cleaned. So in most cases, I won't need to transform the data. So let's load it. So now that the data set has been loaded, what I'll do is I'll drag some values from employee and some values from gender. But first, let's take a look at what we have. So in employee, we have the bad hires value, and we can check that in the field. So let's check the employee. So here, if any hire was a bad hire, it will be marked as 1. Otherwise, it will be 0. So by that, we will just create a visualization using this value and this one, because we want to know the number of bad hires that we have. Here, I'll just drag the bad hires and then I'll drag the gender value. Here, I'll try to create a donut chart. So I'll select donut chart visualization. Now, as you can see, what we see here is that the number of male and female are completely the same. That is, we get 9838 for females and 9838 for males. So this means that there's probably some inconsistency in the data. So to check that, we need to take a look at how the data of the gender looks like. Now let's check that. So as you can see here, we have directly used the gender, which is male and female, but they are being represented by the ID column. So if we look at the employee, we can see here that the gender has been determined using the ID and not their gender value. So what we need to do is we need to make a relationship between the ID from gender and the employee. So to do that, what we are going to do is we are going to take a look at the model view and then we are going to connect the ID. So let's click on Manage Relationships. Here, I need to create a new relationship. So I'll select employee here and then the gender, and from gender, I'll be using this column. So let's hit OK and close this. And by doing this, we should have the proper visualization that we are looking for. So if we take a look at this, the relationship has been defined. That is, it connects the gender ID in the employee gender field. So here, what you can see is that the visualization has now changed and it shows that the number of bad hairs in male was about 51.39% and in females it was about 48.61. Now we can try to change the color of this and maybe change this heading. So to do that, I'll go here and I'll make some changes. Now it looks much better. The heading is clear and it clearly indicates that it is going to stay on top of this. Now we can also try to add a background to this. And to do that, what I'll do is I'll turn on the background, and by doing that, we can see the white portion here. So this stands out differently. Sorry, this was my mistake. I'll go ahead and change the visualization again. And I'll format my visuals again. And I'll represent male by, let's say, alright, this color looks good. And I'll represent females by, let's say, yellow. Now it looks much better. You can always make changes according to your requirements, but select those colors which make the visuals look proper and much more appealing. So now that we have answered how many bad hires were there in the company based on the gender, we will go ahead and create another visualization. For this, I'll create a new hire statistics. This will show how many new hires have been made based on the gender and age groups such as less than 30 or let's say like over 30. For this, I'll need another dataset called group, which I'll load right now. So if you take a look at this data, you can see that there are three age groups, that is less than 30, from 30 to 49 years of age, and then the 50 plus. So let's load this. Now, to create this visualization, which will show new hires that have been made, I'll drag the age group first. So I'll select age group and I'll drag it here. Now that it has been done, what I need to do is I need a complete number of the new hires that were made. So in this data, we don't have any such values, but we do have is new hire value, which has a true or false value. So let's check it again. So here we have this new hire. So if we see some employees with the value of 1, then it means that they were newly hired. So what we need to do is that we need to create a new measure which will be new hires using the DAX. So we can do that by right clicking here and selecting new measures. So we get the formula bar right here. So I'll just clear this and I'll type in my variable name, which will be new hires. And I'll provide it a value by doing a sum of this. So sum of all is new hire will be the new hires value. Now that we have created this, we can drag this value into a visualization. So to do that, what I'll do is first of all, I'll select this and select, let's say, I'll use the stack column chart because we will need to show the gender as well. So I'll select the stack column chart and then I'll drag this value of new hires into the y-axis so that the x-axis represents the age group and the y-axis will represent the number of new hires that were made. And after that, all that remains is to drag the gender into the legend field. So by doing this, as you can see, we were able to create another visualization which shows the number of new hires that were made. And this is based on two metrics, which is the age group, which is shown on the x-axis, and the gender, which is shown above. And this is represented by different colors. Again, you can go ahead and change the colors as you require, or change the headings as you see fit. So again, I'll use blue for the male, and for females, I'll use the yellow color. So now that we are done, I'll just make one another change, which is I'll add in the title and make it look much more bold. So again, format your visuals and go to general and then select the title. I'll again add a background so that it stands out like this. So with these two visualizations, we see the number of bad hires that were made in this company and the new hires that are made based on the age group and their gender. So we can see here that most of the employees that are newly hired are below the age of 30. So I'll just go ahead and change one another thing which I don't like about this visualization is that I'll remove these grid lines. So to do that, again, I'll go to format my visuals. And while we are on this, let me also change the color of the title. And with that, I have answered two questions about the company. That is, the bad hires that were made in the company and the new hires that were made. Now, for this next thing, I'm going to create a line chart which will show new hires made by the year and month, including the employment type. So for that, I will need another data set for this, which shows what is the employment type. So I'm going to need another data set that defines the type of employment that a person has. And I'll just load that data, which is named FP. Now, if you take a look at this, it shows that F means full-time job and P means part-time job. Before loading this data, we can see that there's a problem here. That is, the first row is not being used as the column header. But we can see that what it actually will mean, because F determines that the person is full-time employee and P means that the person will be the part-time employee. So let's transform this data first. So I have just one requirement, that is I want to use the first row as the header, and to do that I'll just click here. And by doing this you can see how the data is changed. Now you can go ahead and close and apply this. And now that it is done, we have FP here. But we need another data set called the date, which will contain everything related to the date and when the employee was hired. So I'll load this data right now. So I'll just go ahead and load this data right now, and I'll create a line chart. So as we have loaded this date dataset, we can see that we are not seeing the visuals that previously created. So let's verify what is the problem. So it says here couldn't load the data for this visual, and the filter on date is not valid. Check that the data type of the date field matches the filter you're trying to apply. So first of all, I'll go ahead and check what is the model showing. So here you can see that the date is not connected with the employee. So what I need to do is first connect these two. And to do that, I'll again go to manage relationships and define a relationship. So I'll select employee date, and then I'll select date and again date. So I'll click OK and close this. So now we can see that the employee date is connected with the date of the date. Now let's go ahead and check if the visuals are visible. So again we see that we can't see the visuals. So let's try to identify what the key problem is. So it says here the date field is not of the correct data type. So okay, let's go ahead and check this. We'll go to date, and here I think this is the problem that we are having, which is the data type is of the text format. So we can change this to date/time. And with this, we should have the visualizations back. So let's check again. Okay, as expected, we can see the visuals again. So let's go ahead and create the line chart that we're looking for, which will show the number of new hires that were made by year and month, including the employment type. So to do that, what I'll do is I'll drag the year column from date, and I'll go ahead and select the line chart. Now I need some values for the x-axis and y-axis. So as I said before, here I am using x-axis to show the years. So I'll drag this to the x-axis. And for the y-axis, I need the number of new hires that were made. So remember the DAX variable that we created? We are going to use that here in the x-axis. So this variable, I'll drag this on the y-axis. And as we can see, the hires that were made in 2011 were lower than 2012, which was lower than 2013, which was lower than 2014. So the number of new hires are increasing on year basis. So now I also need to include the employment type. So to do that, I'll drag the employment type, which is defined by FP, and drag it into the legend field. And by doing this, you can see, sorry, my mistake. I didn't need to drag this value here, it was actually 𝐓𝐵𝐷ESC. As I remember, let me just confirm this. Okay, so we need to drag the 𝐓𝐵DESC value because it shows what the type of employment is, and the 𝐹P is just an ID. So I'll drag this into the legend. So if we take a look at this, you can see that the number of part-time employees in 2012 was around 6,000 and the number of full-time employees in 2012 was around 1,000, and this trend continues. So I also want to see what happened each month in a single year. And to do that, what I can do is I can drag the month into the x-axis. So this activates the drill down. Essentially, when you will try to find out what happens in a specific year, you should be able to take a look at what happens in that year. So let's drill down. So essentially, what we need to do is just click on the year number, and we can see here that there is a downward trend. But this is incorrect because, as you can see, the month that we are seeing here is October, and then this sequence doesn't make any sense because the month starts from January, February, March and so on till December. So we need to change this, and to do that, what we can do is we can sort this using the months. So to do that, I'll go ahead and make some changes to this visualization. So first, I'll go to my data view, I'll select month, and I'll sort this data using the month number. Okay, let's see what changes have been made. So again, it seems like nothing happened. So let's see what we can change. So here I click on sort axis and I'll select year month. And now I need to make this in the ascending order because right now December is on the left side and January is on the right side. And just like that, we have a perfect visualization showing the number of new hires made in 2013. Now I'll go ahead and make some more changes such as changing the colors and the header. And I'll disable the grid line as well. I'll also add the white background which the other visualizations have. Then I'll change the color of these lines. Okay, so this does not look much appealing to me, so I'll change one color. So, to me, this looks much more appealing to the eye, and I'll use this color scheme. Now, for the last part, I'll create a matrix which will show the region and the ethnicity of the new employees that were hired. So, we need the new hires value again. But we also need two new data sets for this, which are ethnicity and the region data. Here we have the BU dataset which contains the information about the region. So as you can see, we have some values available here which shows the region part and the vice president's names right here. So I'll go ahead and load this. Now that BU has been loaded, I will load another dataset called ethnicity. So we can see here that this dataset has 3 columns, of which the last column is empty. So I can just go ahead and remove this data. So I'll go ahead and remove this empty column. And to do that, I just have to select this and click on remove columns. And just like that, this is ready to be loaded. So close and apply and wait for the data to be loaded. Now that the data is loaded, what I can do is I can go ahead and create a new matrix But before I do that, I need to make sure that the relationships are properly defined. So let's look at the BU dataset. So it has these values which are self-explanatory and the ethnicity. So it looks like I need to connect the ethnic group for the employee, and then I need to connect the BU for the employee as well. So I'll go ahead and go to my model view and let's see what has happened. So for BU, it looks like the relationship was automatically made. And for the ethnicity, it looks like the relationship here was also automatically made. So it goes to show the powerful features of the Power BI, that it is able to make sense of what the relationships might be. So let's go ahead and create that matrix that we are looking for. So first thing is first, I'll take the region value and I'll drag it here. Now I'll select matrix, and now for here I will go ahead and include into rows the vice president's names as well. Now I'll drag the ethnicity column, and for the values I'll provide the new hires, because essentially this visualization is all about the new hires that are made, and this shows the analytics of the HR. So as you can see, we can say in this chart that from specific regions, what kind of ethnicity group were hired and how much do they total. So the first thing that I'm going to change about this visual is first of all the font size, because as of now it looks like it is too small. So I'll again go to format my visuals and I'll change some settings here. So for the columns header, I'll change the text size and I'll make it bold. I'll do the same for the row headers as well. And I'll make the same changes for the values. So now I'll just resize all of this, and now I can show you what Power BI is all about. So in this project, what we have answered is the number of bad hires that have been made and the number of new hires that have been made by the company. And I have created this matrix here, which can also go ahead and show that what happens in specific regions. So if we go ahead and click on the central region, we can see that the ethnicity is this, and the visualization changed based on this specific value. So now that the project is ready, I can go ahead and publish it. And I'll select my workspace for this. And now that we have successfully published our report to the Power BI, we can go ahead and see it. So as you can see here, we can see the visualizations that we made. So for this, you can see that if I drill down on 2012, I'll see a trend of something like this, which represents the new hires that were made. And essentially, this will go to show the hiring analytics that have been made by the company. And just like that, the project is done. Do experiment and note that you will be able to create this great reports in no time, because most of the learning comes from experimentation. This video did not include having multiple pages. For example, instead of having just one page here, I could have had two, or maybe let's say 5 pages, which could have shown the analytics of the HR operations. So let us know in the comments if you would like to see more in-depth end-to-end projects. And do let us know if you are able to experiment with Power BI successfully or not. Thanks for watching and have a great day.
I hope you have enjoyed listening to this video. Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries, and we will reply them at the earliest. Do look out for more videos in our playlist and subscribe to Edureka channel to learn more. Happy learning!